This alert goes out to the people of Spain. This individual tried to friend me on my Facebook list last week. I accepted the friend's request and I immediately recognized who he was. So I called him out on that fact and he sent me some earshots about 4 or 5 days later. After performing the ear analysis, he was a match to the person that I thought he was, and he is also a match to an additional person who the people of Spain will find very interesting. As we do an overlay of the two ears, we can change the opacity level and we can see the layer beneath it, and we can see that the landmarks of the ear line up completely perfect. Now the one head is turned slightly different than the other, but still you can see that the landmarks line up. We can even see that the hair pattern lines up. So now let's draw a grid and let's mark off the intersecting points of the ear and do the other overlay, and we can see that again the same spots, the same landmarks intersect with the grid of that ear. We can say that this person is a 100% match with this ear. Now not only that, but in addition to that we can see that they are the same height. They are both 6'5", and so is the individuals that we're looking at as matching them too. Before I tell you who this person is, I want you to take a look at his Facebook page. Of course we can see that he has numerous photographs of himself on there in different lights and different expressions, whatnot. But I want you to take note of some of the individuals that he has on his friends list. One of them he calls his daughter. Now when we track her to her account, we can see her sitting alongside of someone who looks a lot like Zimmerman from the Trayvon Martin case.
He is coming before the court, or will be here soon, I understand. Mr. Romero, I got your ad hoc appearance, and I know that you are appearing on behalf as a local lawyer, so we'll give you credit for that. I also...
Now I've already exposed these guys before in my other videos. We have Corey Stoll from Law and Order. We also have, of course, now we've identified Zimmerman as this person's relative. And of course his lawyer we have as Roger Daltrey from The Who. He's a well-known actor, and of course his song is used in the CSI Miami show's intro. But of course some of you may say that this is just a coincidence. Okay, well, how about this? The individual who's his daughter happens to look a lot like the individual that's playing the role of the mother of some missing children.
Kelly, the water is still draining here this morning, and police are still working to...
Oh yeah, and by the way, that's Aaron Dykes from InfoWars, Alex Jones.
...find those two missing girls. This morning we actually are here with the mother of Lyric this morning to tell us a little bit about what's going on. How has it been these last few days?
The first 3 days we were very active, searching, going through the woods. The last few days this week, when they're not allowing the citizen search, has been a lot more difficult. Not having as much to do, keeping busy, and as the time continues to go on, so do your concerns and worries about what might be happening to them and where are they. I'm glad they're draining the lake.
So is that still a coincidence for you? Well, how about this one? As it seems the father that was in that missing kids thing is also friends of theirs.
No, I think that every effort put forth is worth.
So now that you see that, do you still think it's a coincidence that this person is trying to friend me on my account? Me being the person that is exposing all these fake actors in the media, creating fake news, and trying to trick you into giving them donations for their missing kids or their police that shot their dog. I mean, come on. So, in addition to those two fools that are in his account, to find out who this guy is going to amaze you. So just to make sure, I took one more photograph that I found online of this individual and put it on top of another photograph of this person playing a role in Spain. and they match. So he is this individual as well. So let me tell you who this person that tried to friend me the other day really is, and then we'll go into who his friend is in Spain. So this Ken McCormick guy is actually John Cleese from Monty Python. Notice the hair pattern, everything is the same.
I'm pretty obsessionally interested in this election. I think it is so important that Barack Obama is elected, because the world is treating America now a little bit like the village idiot of the international community, and hardly surprising. You see, when they elected George Bush the first time, the world thought, well, it was probably stolen. Here was a guy who was winning the election because the state where his brother was governor, that was under Jeb Bush's control. And here is George W. Bush, who is the son of the previous president, who was also the head of the Secret Service. I mean, it sounds like a South American country. When the Americans really put their foot in it was re-electing Bush. I mean, the rest of the world was flabbergasted. Yeah. And I think it can be almost fixed like that by electing Obama, because it really indicates this is not fundamentally a backwoods, redneck, racist society.
What do you think about Sarah Palin when you...
I used to think Michael Palin was the funniest Palin on earth. What fascinates me, though, is how people watching her on television, can they not see that she's basically learned certain speeches? And she does them very well. She's got a very good memory. But it's like a nice-looking parrot, because the parrot speaks beautifully and kind of says, "all shucks," every now and again, but doesn't really have any understanding of the meaning of the words that it is producing, even though it's producing them very accurately. And she's been in these training sessions with Cheney's pals, and she's learned these speeches. And the extraordinary thing is that so many people are taken in by it. And the truth is that Sarah Palin is no way good enough. And if you lined up from Europe, left-wingers, centrists, right-wingers, you wouldn't find 10%. You probably wouldn't find 5% who think she's good enough to run the United States. And she's running as the partner of a 72-year-old cancer survivor. I mean, Monty Python could have written this. And I'm sorry, Michael Palin, to say you're not the funniest Palin anymore, but you're not. I don't think you have to be an actor for 40 years to see that it's all been learned. Yeah. Well, you see Biden speaking. Well, Biden has been preparing. He knows that if this point comes up, he has to make this point, this point, and this point. But he doesn't have to learn the words off like a parrot, because he actually understands what he's talking about, and he can find the words. So when people say that she did well in the debate, I want to say to them, where have you been living all your life? The interesting thing about the Americans is that they're remarkably unenvious about money. And I applaud that. They're very generous about rich people, because they all think, well, I might get there one day. What they don't like, by and large, the sort of the core Republican vote, is anyone who's more intelligent than them, who's more graceful than they are, who's more sophisticated than they are. So they want, as leader, somebody that they feel is their equal, because they feel comfortable with someone like that. The envy of the very qualities that you need in a president is incredibly self-destructive for the American nation.
Now, John, you know, since you're not an American, and John's not even your real name, I find it pretty funny that you would sit there and tell us what we think. I think that's the problem right there, and I think that was the problem, say, 200 some odd years ago, when your country tried to tell us what to do, and we kicked your asses. So, I think you're still bitter about that, and you're still pompous, and you're still just pretty much an asshole. And the reason why I say that, I say it for good reason. We'll get into that in a little bit. Because, see, back in the times of the Revolutionary War, Spain was our ally, as they still are, and we owe Spain a lot, because Spain was the one that gave us all the weapons to fight the British with, because we couldn't build the weapons over here because we were being watched because of the British were here. So we were stockpiling weapons in Concord, Massachusetts, and the British got wind of it, and it caused a big problem because they didn't want us Americans to be armed. Kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? So you have this constant push from these non-American actors to remove the weapons from the hands of the civilian population. That's the first thing that they want to do. Second thing that they want to do is they, of course, want to overthrow this country and bring it back under British rule. Now, they've done this very carefully since that war, and they've done it by placing their agents or their people that are loyal to the Queen or loyal to the Crown in positions where they can slowly work their way into elected places in our government. Time and time again, we see this with the individuals that are elected to office, and I've been exposing these individuals as having ties or being from another country, and they're using a pseudonym name. Now, how do they do this? It's very simple, and it's something that needs to be changed if we want this country to ever get beyond the point that it is right now and have the people regain control of the country that is theirs. The problem lies within the ability for somebody to run for office and to do so by using a pseudonym as their name. They don't even have to register that name to their person legally, and they are not bound by any law to disclose this fact, even to the constituents that are electing them to office. This is a major problem that needs to be corrected, because how can you expect somebody to be responsible for their actions if they can do so while remaining anonymous? And by that I mean any lobbyist could come into their office and offer them the world, and they can take it knowing that they're doing something that is not for the people and is in their best interest personally or financially, and then they can walk out that office and change their name again back to either what it was or to a new pseudonym and repeat the process all over again in the next state they target. So you see, accountability is a key issue when it comes to our elected officials, and the fact that they have none. So these actors have been hired, and if you look in Black's Law, the definition of what an actor is, it's basically a person that's hired to do somebody else's bidding. So the actor is hired to act. That's what they do. They take on a pseudonym, they run for office, and if they make it in, they make it in. If they don't, they don't. They go on to another state to do it again. But they use their media assets, and by this I mean the Rockefeller and the Hollywood elite, as their advertising and basically their marketing. Now, you don't know that the TV is biased. You think it is. You think that one is maybe a little bit more biased than the other, like Fox News is more biased than CNN. But when it all boils down to it, they are all on the same page. And that same page as a corporation is to disinform you, to keep you in the dark about what is actually going on with our government and other governments of the world. Now, this isn't something that they do just part of the time. They do it all the time. There's no just 10% of, oh, they're probably telling us good information for this part. No. That would be like you going to your boss and saying, hey boss, since I have lunch coming up for the next hour, would you mind if I go work for our competitors for 30 minutes? You get fired. Now, as a corporation, they are beholden to their stockholders. They have lawyers that ensure the stockholders that the management is working in the stockholders' best interest. Now, do you think for a second that if they are doing these things that they are doing, and you can obviously see that the majority of the time they are lying to the people that they are supposedly reporting the news to, if they're doing that part of the time, what makes you think that another part of the time they're doing something different? They're not. They're always lying to you because that's what they have to do. They have to lie to you in order to continue to create the interest, the buzz, the need for news in your perception of what's going on out there. Because if the reality was ever known that this world is a much better place than what they've portrayed or what they've tricked us into thinking, then they would be out of jobs. There would be no drama, because naturally people do not want war. They do not want to fight other people. I don't care if you're a Afghan poppy farmer or you're a construction worker here in the United States. It doesn't matter. All you want is the same thing for your family, for yourself, and for your future. So these individuals have created this drama, constant drama, and while they're doing it, they profit from it. And we'll get into that in a moment. But right now, I want to talk to you about what John's doing. So we see John Cleese here. Add a little hair dye, put a little beard on him, a little latex to make him look a little older. And you have the Prime Minister of Spain.
Se hizo un pequeño lío, según dijo, porque no entendía su propia letra.
Yo voy a votar al PP porque confío en que usted tomará medidas para que los estudiantes, cuando acabemos la carrera, pues tengamos asegurado un puesto de trabajo. ¿Qué medidas incluye en su programa para crear empleo?
A ver si es capaz de contestar en un minuto.
Sí, es que me ha pasado una cosa verdaderamente notable, que lo he escrito aquí y no entiendo mi letra.
Y para los jóvenes emprendedores.
Medidas para crear empleo y los jóvenes. Bueno, crear empleo, yo creo que hemos tratado este tema profundamente.
Las cotizaciones sociales,
sí.
claro.
Sí, no, pero crear empleo fundamentalmente es animar la inversión.
Now let's take a look at another player in Spain that, of course, when you look at the naming conventions that we've been discussing in all the other events, you start to realize that it's Monty Python guys that are writing these scripts. So let's take a look at this next person and you'll see what I mean. Alright, here we have King Don Juan of Spain. Now, if we take a closer look at this nose, we can see this area right here. That's what's called nasal putty. Actors will use on stage to change the nose and other parts of the face. They can also use a thing called scar wax. That's what Tina Fey uses, or Jennifer Greenberg Sexton. Now, if we look at the rest of this face, we can see that there's some latex being used. It's being blended in right about here. You can see the latex right here being blended in. You can definitely see it right here being blended. Coming across the eyebrows to the glabella. Now, I want you to notice some other things on this face. One is this spot right here. This spot right here, and that vein that's underneath with that spot right there. Because this person is actually Paul Newman. We can see that spot, it's that one right there. This is the vein, and we can see the beginning of that other spot. Right there, there's the vein. Now, you can also see that they're putting latex on his face as well. And this looks like it's going to be an old age stipple just to try to increase the wrinkles. So we can see it around here, down on the chin, around the mouth. You can also see it right around here. You can blend it in on the cheek, up underneath the eye, Some on the nose. That right there might be real. Now, right here is where you can see the beginning of that discoloration. Now this face isn't turned completely towards us, as this one is, but we can see that the ear has the same crease, but of course this is blocking the trachea, so we can't really do an ear evaluation on this particular face in this position, but we will do it on another one. Now he's pulling his corners of his mouth down and in, almost like a smirk, so it's causing the mouth to bunch up a little bit more than it would here, but we can see the same creases, everything are consistent. Even down to this discoloration beginning there is right there. It looks like they covered up this with some makeup. Right there. But you can still see the indentation. Maybe he had a melanoma cut out. But we can see right there, showing through. So for those of you that are still in denial about what I'm saying here, hold tight because you're going to like this next part. You see, now I say the King of Spain is Paul Newman. Now, Paul Newman had a wife. That's Joanne Woodward. So, would it be just a coincidence that the Queen of Spain looks exactly like her?